Welcome to another Faith Horizons podcast. Today I'm here with John Losh and
howdy,
John Higginbotham.
Higginbotham. Okay. You said he was going to butcher that.
I actually was. So here's how I saw it. You have those names like drinking fountain or flower, and then you hear them in German. That's what I was thinking of was your name. We got normal, then we got Higginbotham.
It's English, actually.
It is English?
It's English.
Okay, it's English.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Wow,
but that's
okay.
like, I was thinking like flower in German is like, please. Anyway, but I'm so glad today we're here with John and John, and so
Yep.
I'm now out man.
I'm John. This is my other brother, John.
Yeah, I'm now out man. I'm one Nathan against two Johns.
First John, second John.
There you
This ain't
go.
gonna be good, guys. Anyway, we're with John with God's Bucket. I thought it was called John's Bucket Brigade, but God's Bucket Brigade. John might have taken ownership of this thing. Anyway, so can you, John Losh? How did you meet John Higginbotham?
Well, right across from on Facebook, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook is a great resource, and
you've said that before.
Well, and the thing is, once it knows what you're into, you get suggestions all the time. Here's somebody you might know. Here's organizations or pages you might like. And I'm always on the lookout for that. For this podcasts that I do, Eternity Ready Radio, all that kind of stuff. So, I saw him and I'm like, okay, I'm going to send him a message and get him on the podcast. And,
it worked out.
And here he is.
Here we are.
Well, thank you.
And of course, that's all God's design. Can't take credit for it.
That's
all
right. That's right.
Well, John, so can you just tell us a little bit of what, in a short excerpt, what is God's Bucket Brigade? What is God's Bucket Brigade?
Simply put, and I'll just start it with our mission statement, is to bless and love the homeless and less fortunate with help for today and hope for tomorrow.
Okay, great.
And the way we do that, leading into that, is we take 5-gallon buckets, fill them with personal necessities, take them out on the streets, within camps. So we are front lines ministry. We're not in a building where people come to us. We go to them. And God had told me just meet them where they're at. Basically meet them where they're at. We basically give this gift. We call it a bucket of love from God. So when we interact with someone on the streets, we pop the lid open, share one item in the bucket that this is a gift from God. And two things happen very quickly in that conversation. I find out real quickly they know God, and we have that conversation, or they don't know God, and it just opens up another dialogue for that. But the key for us in what we do is building trust with these people, building relationships with these people. Mm-hmm. Again, like I said, meeting them where they're at, and then providing resources and services to them, not directly, but we're a connector, if you will.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So you connect some other ministries with them too. Yeah, because it takes quite a bit to, when you're engaging somebody that's homeless, they have a lot of needs. A lot of them have identity. I mean, they have no identity. There's no there's there's social securities. There's no nothing, And so you have to kind of help them if they want to come out of that lifestyle. You have to help them rebuild their life. But you're meeting them where they're at.
That's exactly right. That's what God had given me the direction of meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
It's not my job or our job to take them off the streets if they're not willing to do the work to do that.
Yeah. So you're the meet them where they're at ministry.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and I know the God's Buckets don't just get distributed by your ministry, but you work with other ministries. I know you work with Pastor Brian Carline, who's a good friend of mine. Team Jesus. Yeah, he's been on my radio show, spoken to my church. I need to get him on this podcast as well. So shout out to you, Brian, and your team.
Yes.
But I got one question. So I went to your site. I saw your faith testimony, saw where you married and met and married your wife, Jo, and she's a big part of your ministry. She runs another ministry herself, so shout out to you, Jo.
That's right.
But I got a question. Number one, I when you say, necessities, I can imagine probably what some of those things would be, but what's in the bucket? And have you developed a process over time where, okay, these are the things that go in the bucket, and here's this thing goes in first and this thing, because we know how this comes together. So we don't just try to dump everything in there at once and it not fit right and the lid won't fit on or anything like that. I'm sure you've developed a process with that.
Yes, that's developed over time.
Yeah,
and
right.
It will continue to develop. But it is personal necessities, like you mentioned, and I won't list everything, but toilet paper, bottled water, wet wipes, There's a Bible, of course.
Right, yeah,
Toothpaste,
absolutely.
probably.
Hygiene kit, a snack bag. There are a flashlight. There's a first aid kit.
Wow.
There's just
I need to
all
get some of
kinds
those to
things.
carry in my truck. You know.
We can make that happen for you, John, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Seriously.
great. And so, all right, so you started. When did you start this ministry?
It was officially in September of 2019, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
18 is when I started. When I told God I would start to do it. I'll put it that way. I still wasn't sold out for this yet.
In 18, you said you started to do it. So then in 2019, you said that you started the 501c3 in 2019. But what led to all this stuff? What was the origin story of God's Bucket Brigade?
That's great. That's a great question. And so the essence of God's Bucket Brigade, God gave me a heart for the homeless probably over 30 years ago. And there's a lot more to this story, but God took me out of my career into 2013, 2014.
And what were you doing as a
I was
career?
in the IT consulting staffing
great.
industry for 25 plus years.
Great, yeah.
And so in 2014, I started a network marketing business. And then the summer of 14, God gave me the dream
Okay.
of God's Bucket Brigade. It was a very short dream, and I'll be happy to share it if you want me to right now. It's not very long.
Yeah, you can share it.
Please.
The essence of it, there's a 5-gallon bucket in the dream.
Yeah.
Started out with a 5-gallon bucket, and then the next thing that happens, I'm in an inner city, like downtown Kansas City, and I'm walking the streets of Kansas City, and I would come across people that I would see with these buckets, but I would never interact with them. And then I came to a corner. There were these buckets stacked all the way around me as far as I could see, and then I looked down to the right of the street, and there's a line of people. And I'm literally handing out these buckets one by one. No conversation, just one by one to these people. Ended up handing out all these buckets. Started walking around the city a little bit more. Then I started seeing communities, people sitting in circles on these buckets. And I see a gentleman get off the bucket, open the lid, and starts to take things what I found out, personal necessities. This is when I first thought these were homeless people.
Yeah, wow.
Buckets. And so starting to get dark. I need to get to my car. Walking down the street, get to the street light. I look up on this building. At the very top of the building, there's a red neon sign that says God's Bucket Brigade. And then boom, dream over. Just like that.
Wow.
So okay, so that was what year did that happen in?
That was in 2014.
Okay, so the Lord gave you this dream in 2014, which clearly, that wasn't for you. That was probably for you to tell somebody else, right?
Bingo. Yeah. I wasn't going to be doing that.
No.
Okay, God, that's great, but find somebody else,
Yeah, I'll go share this with someone else.
Yeah.
So I don't need to know who, but I think you had shared this possibly with someone else, and then that person said, "Wow."
Yeah. I shared it with a total stranger in
my gosh.
2017.
Oh, wow.
At a coffee shop in Lee Summit, Missouri.
Wow.
And long story short on that.
Which coffee shop was
Post
it?
Coffee.
I will try to go there.
Road.
We will be there. Okay,
Yep,
keep
yep.
going.
We'll do one of our KC Kingdom Builders meetings.
Yeah, we'll do that.
There you
Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, I sat down at the table with this gentleman, and he had his laptop open, and I knew he didn't want me to sit down with him. And he shared his testimony with me first.
Oh, wow.
In this very first meeting. And so I left there like, never going to see this guy again. I didn't say anything. He was just sharing his heart with me. So anyway, 4 or 5 months go by, and I see him in the same coffee shop, and I sat down with him again, and I shared the dream. First person I ever shared this dream to was this total stranger.
Total stranger, right?
Total stranger.
Yeah, I love it.
But he really wasn't a stranger because you've met him for
I'd
the second
met him
time
before.
now.
Yeah, second time. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I shared the dream with him. And at the end of that conversation of sharing their dream, just like I did with you, he asked me one question. He goes, "What are you going to do about it?" And I look at him across the table like I am with you.
You want me to do what?
Yeah. And it's like, what do you mean, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
And the next thing he said, he pointed his finger at me across the table, and he goes, "That's your call.
Wow.
That's your call." I knew what being called was, but that wasn't for me. I wasn't going to be called to ministry.
No,
kind of what we talked about earlier, Nathan. And
I'm telling you, man, it's so true.
It is. And so I asked him, "Why do you think it's the call on my life?"
Yeah.
And for 30 minutes, he started sharing why he thought God called me to this ministry.
Wow.
And everything that came out of his mouth made sense to me.
Oh, wow.
So I literally left that day
Wow.
thinking, "Okay, God, maybe this is it."
And we shared with you earlier when someone first told him he was going to do a podcast, he was like, "No, when somebody first told me to do my men's podcast. I was like,
a friend of mine told me that he saw me
got other plans
producing his podcast, and I told him I was never going to produce his podcast anyway. So Anyway, long story short, here we are now. We've got 3 cameras. We've got, we've
got a full studio.
We've got a full studio. We've got, we were having technical difficulties this morning, John.
And a nice place to house it, so we don't have to,
we were having technical
put it back together every week.
Technical
difficulties, yeah. But you one wire.
I already have I have a very high window right here too.
Yeah.
Whenever I need to throw something out.
There you go. We talked about technology last week, and you hate it 1 minute, or you love it 1 minute, next minute you want to throw it out the window. So we were about ready to do that with this camera today, but one wire.
I've got technology. So anyway, but all right, back to God's Bucket Brigade. Yeah. So all right, so this guy, just says that this is the call on your life, and kind of really gets you, obviously pinpoints it on you. So so you walking out there now with the mission,
Yes. Yeah, that's basically it. And again, there's always more to the story, if you will, but
a mission always starts with a commission. You've been commissioned.
That's exactly what he did.
And you commissioned with God. Now, go ahead. Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should have told him to bring us a bucket to sit back next to our shelf there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, whatever.
We collect stuff from people.
Well, I'll get one. I'll get one from you. Yeah. Later on. Yeah. Anyway, so go ahead though.
No,
you walked out with a
mission.
mission.
What I was going to say is if I'm going to do this, I saw him later.
Yeah.
You're going to help me with this. And he said, I'm allergic to homeless people. That's what he told me. He's like, I'm not going to help you with this.
I'm allergic to homeless people. So, God's probably rolling his eyes in heaven like, I'm allergic to homeless people too.
That's exactly
God's up there with a face palm. No!
So he started helping me collect things for the contents for the buckets.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
And so I went on a trip with him to West Branson. He was speaking. Just so you know, he's a missionary.
Oh, okay.
So God set me up with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
But we went on a trip down to Branson about 3 weeks after I actually shared the dream with him, and I was just along for the ride. And we're at Teen Challenge down there, and he was sharing his testimony with the boys at Teen Challenge.
Oh,
I've had them come speak at my church.
Great.
That's great.
Yeah, and we if I can get a hold of somebody from there, we'd like to have them on this podcast too. So.
Yeah. Well, it just takes time to get everybody.
Yeah.
So anyway, you were with Teams Challenge with him.
With him.
Okay,
yeah.
with him.
So
did you have the buckets then already?
No, I hadn't started anything.
Okay, this is like 2016ish, 17.
2018.
Oh, 18. Yeah.
This would have been like February of 18.
Because we know now that you got a nice little logo on all your buckets and everything. That's how we know you.
And it's on his
but
t-shirt.
This was when you were about ready to start going down the street to get the orange orange Home Depot buckets.
That's right.
Whatever it takes, Lord.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
But so anyway, I was down there and he got through sharing his testimony. We went back to the pastor's office and the executive director's office.
Yeah.
And they're over there like here, just having a conversation, and they get through with their conversation, come over and join me in the area I was sitting in, and they go, "Well, who are you?" Type of thing. And Pastor Derek, he asked me, "What do you do?" Keep in mind, I hadn't officially started God's Bucket Brigade, and I said I have this homeless ministry called God's Bucket Brigade, and I'm telling this to a pastor, and he goes, "Well, tell me about it." So I started sharing what I knew about it. He goes, "Can we use this here at Teen Challenge as a community outreach project?"
Of course.
And I'm like, yeah.
What a great idea.
Yeah, but I said, I haven't even started this yet, Pastor. And he goes, well, maybe we can be your guinea pigs. We can be the first one.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
Technically, God's Bucket Brigade started Teen Challenge in West Branson.
In 2018?
Wow.
2018.
So did you just get normal buckets at that time?
What an interesting through Roger, my friend Roger that I was telling you about that helped me get this started. There's an organization, Independence, that provided these plain white buckets.
Yeah, that's why I figured you just start with something. Yeah, you start with something.
And so we bought lids from Walmart that fit the buckets.
Okay, yeah.
And so we built 50 buckets.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have a truck back then. I had a 2010 Honda Accord.
Oh, wow. Not going to get many buckets in that, brother.
So I had to borrow a friend of mine from my men's group from church, his truck,
wow.
and I went down there by myself. And that's how it all began.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. So now fast forward to 2025. So how many locations does it have? I know you had just recently lost one location. You can tell us about that. But I know you're in Kansas City. So, you're in Kansas City, and but then also where are you at?
Yeah, we just this year, as you mentioned, the other city we were in was in Nashville. God closed that door about a year ago.
And he might reopen it, but right now your person that was there is not able to do it anymore.
Not able to do it.
Yeah.
So Kansas City, of course, and then Springfield, Missouri, Phoenix, Arizona, and Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, that's crazy!
Those are the
Awesome.
locations we're in.
So on a normal basis, like your team at God's Bucket Brigade goes out. How many times a month is it? Is it like once a week, or is it once a month?
It varies. It's multiple times a month. There's not like a once a week schedule or anything.
Uh-huh.
We really kind of go as God leads. It's kind of an interesting concept because it goes against the normal worldly ways of doing things.
Everybody wants to have a system.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about that, though, is that then the people who are down there, the homeless people who you're serving, they don't even get to know when you're coming.
That's exactly
So
right.
then you can meet different people because then there's no structure, time structure to it,
Yeah. And we seek them out too.
Yeah, obviously.
As far as those locations.
So you said something about camps. Like a lot of times people don't understand homelessness. So what is a camp?
A camp is,
is
a wooded area
Yeah.
where people usually have tents in,
Uh-huh.
and that is their home.
Yeah.
Is in a wooded area.
And there's a lot of times, and around Kansas City, there's quite a few camps that I've known about. I know there's some that were down there near City Market, down near the river. They had some camps down there.
Yes.
Also on Holmes Road over here, we had a couple camps back in the wooded areas. A lot of times they'll stay there for a while until the cops will have to move them out.
Yes.
But then they'll have to move on. They'll eventually establish a different camp.
Yes, that is
somewhere
correct.
else. So
yeah, they in the city they'll sweep a camp.
yeah, they'll sweep a camp, and sometimes it's necessary. That's what they have to do. But
well, and I think they've enacted laws in Kansas City now that it's like illegal to sleep in public.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How much has that impacted people that you've seen?
Well, what happens? It's they have to keep moving. They're transient around the city, so it's hard to find a location. Abandoned buildings. That's another thing that happens. You find that they'll have set up homes within abandoned buildings, things like that. But you're right. You don't see as many sleeping on the streets as you used to see. As far as
a lot of times I've seen them. They're sleeping during the day too, because at night it's a different time for them.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And I just realized something, that when they're not using the bucket, it actually makes a little handy place for them to sit too.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Well, that's what he said in the dream. He said he saw a guy that was sitting on the bucket.
Oh, that's right. He did say that. Okay.
I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, that's actually a brilliant. No, only God would have thought of a bucket.
God.
Only God.
It's a bucket, guys.
Yeah.
It's a bucket, guys. All right. So can you just tell us a little bit? So So you said, how many would you say you're passing out per month right now?
Probably 200
about 200 a month. Okay,
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And so and then also, let's just go into if say a church or another organization wants to partner with you, how does that work?
Yeah. There's a number of ways that people can volunteer with us. One thing we call it is a bucket build, literally where we assemble these buckets.
Awesome.
Churches, youth groups, different organizations can participate that way. Building buckets. The other way is we do one big outreach a month down in Washington Park. They can come out and volunteer actually in the park and get to interact directly with the people that we serve.
And if they were looking for that event, could they find it on Facebook? Where could they find that event?
They can reach out to me personally because that again, kind of like you said, that date changes. We don't want to have a set.
So you move that around a little bit, yeah.
But it's typically one Friday a month is when we usually do it on a Friday.
Okay.
So
great. And so keep going into how would the bucket build, how would they do that?
Yeah, what that would look like, you could come to our location to do the bucket build, or we could bring the supplies to your location and do the bucket build.
So if you're at a church or if you're at a different type of ministry, you could invite them and then you would bring the supplies if you wanted to.
As an example, we have churches partner with us all the time, and we literally just did a build of 200 buckets at a church this last week.
Yeah.
We provided all the supplies. We go in and with the volunteers at the church, set it up, and it's an assembly line, kind of what you were talking about, Josh. John,
John.
it's an
Call me
assembly
anything,
line.
just call me when dinner's ready.
That's right. And so they do the build, and then they help load them up, and then we transport them back to our warehouse where they're in inventory.
So you said 200 buckets. So how much does each bucket cost? So we can kind of get a cost perspective. And then how did that church, end up facilitating some of the cost of that?
Okay, yeah. $35 $30 a bucket.
Okay.
Includes the bucket, the lid,
The bucket, the lid, and the items inside.
And the items
that's
inside the
that's
bucket.
really good. Yeah,
It is.
it's really
It
cool.
is.
Yeah,
And there's lots of great personal necessities in there.
you'd have a hard time getting a meal at Jack Stacks for $30.
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
right.
exactly.
You know, and you're talking about some essentials that'll last them for a little while at
Oh, it
least.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what that means. A couple weeks, 2-3 weeks. I mean,
It
a
can
month.
be
A month.
depending on the,
A month. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
not to mention they get to keep the bucket.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And in camps, they use it,
Yeah.
to carry wood,
Yeah.
to carry water,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned how can a church participate
Yeah.
in that, and typically some churches will sponsor the full build.
Okay.
Some churches will sponsor some buckets and will provide the rest of the necessities that go in the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they have individual church members that will actually donate funds.
Yeah. And
So
so
they
how
can
did
have a fundraiser
so how
for
did
it.
that work at this last church that you were just in? Just kind of
Okay.
give us so that they can have an example of what
This
happened.
is this last church we did this bucket build with. The church itself had sponsored, I call it 120 buckets, paid for 120
Right. So that's
buckets.
30 times 120 buckets,
Yes.
and then
And then the remainder, 80 buckets, was paid for by an individual
Okay.
church member.
yeah, and that for that individual that was fine, but then the church also sponsored 120 of them. So
Yes. Yeah.
So that's great.
It can happen many different ways.
So it seems, but then obviously, would you only work with organizations that sponsor the buckets, or would you also work with organizations that aren't able to sponsor the buckets?
Yeah, we do both.
Okay.
So there are organizations that provide, like I mentioned earlier, the hands and feet, to actually assemble.
Yeah,
the buckets
assemble
and
the
so on.
buckets or organization. So there is the organization God's Bucket Brigade has a donation aspect to it, that the money is needed to buy the buckets.
Yes.
So if they're paying for the buckets, that doesn't necessarily fund the organization. That just provides
That's
the
exactly right.
product of the product that you're delivering.
Yes.
So there is a great need for a donation as well so that you can provide for the overhead of the
Overhead
organization,
operational expenses.
and to obviously give you a salary if possible and stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm.
So what other things, what it would be included in the overhead operation? Do you have facility costs right now, or?
Yeah, luckily God has provided
Okay.
a warehouse at no cost. I mean, we have 2 vehicles.
That's great.
That
yeah,
is amazing.
that's amazing. Yeah,
It is.
Okay.
So God is
Yeah.
a great provider, Jehovah Jireh,
yeah.
right?
I just try to get a framework of what's the cost, so that way
Yeah.
people know where money's heading.
Yeah, I mean, basically, obviously outside of the buckets and
Uh-huh.
the contents, but there's 2 vehicles that we operate.
Okay.
So there's insurance, gas, maintenance on those vehicles.
And they will need to be replaced someday,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, they will. And
Yeah.
in fact, we just had a heavy maintenance on one of
Oh.
the trucks this last.
You can only do that so many times before it's just
Exactly.
like, I get another one.
That's right. That's right. So vehicles are very important.
Yeah.
To do what we do.
Yeah.
We also have a bookkeeper, so there's a
Okay.
cost associated with
Yeah.
keeping all the financials and everything for the 501c3. that we
Absolutely,
have.
yeah. You have to do that right too.
Yeah, and
So
the
you can
reporting that goes
continue
with
to
that.
operate. So you have but you said the facility you're currently using the warehouse is free of charge right now,
Yes.
or no cost.
At no cost
Yeah,
right now.
I mean,
Yeah.
because there is a cost.
There is
Somebody
a
else
cost.
is somebody
Someone
else is paying
is-
it. Yeah,
That's exactly right. That's
it's no
exactly
cost.
right.
So and then obviously paying yourself if you can. So
Yeah.
all right, do you have more staff than just yourself right now?
Staff that's an interesting word.
I know volunteers, but then there's
Yes.
staff. So anyway,
We have, like I said, a bookkeeper
Okay.
that keeps the monthly books. My wife and I
Uh-huh.
are considered staff, if
Uh-huh.
you will, and the rest is all volunteers.
all involved. So it's a very light organization. That's
Yes.
very nice, And then how do you when you're adding locations into another place, those people are doing that voluntarily, like the
Yeah.
people in Nashville or the people in
Like the person in
Tucson
Tucson, they
and
reached
Phoenix.
out to us.
Okay,
They
wow.
wanted to start a God's Bucket
Wow.
Brigade there. So
So if you want to do this, you can just do it.
that's exactly
Yeah.
right. You really can.
You can
Yeah.
Nike it. You just do it, guys.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, Courtney is a volunteer
wow.
leader in
Wow.
Tucson. I mean, she has a heart to do this, and I think
Wow.
that's a big part of it. To make it sustainable.
So for instance, let's say some church outreach coordinator wants to partner with you guys. They could do it anywhere in the country, right?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Yeah. So a church outreach coordinator wants to start doing more outreach for their church. It doesn't matter where they're at. They can call you up and then begin to partner with you. They just buy So how are you manufacturing the buckets? Can they get that locally, or do you have to ship that to them?
I'll use Tucson as an example.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to figure out, because like transportating of items like that.
Actually drop ship all the contents.
There you go.
Everything. We do the ordering for the people. Yeah. So we try to take the day-to-day
That's the burden of the organization. That's what your job is, to deliver what they need so that they can do what. Yeah,
they're truly the hands and feet.
Yeah, that's
the
awesome.
Physical component of what we do, but then go share the gospel.
So this is basically a ready-made outreach.
Yes, it really is.
That's kind of cool. You know that?
We literally have a playbook. We call it a playbook, a manual that a person could use to do this.
So if somebody had a heart for the homeless, or they wanted even just to do normal outreach, they could do the bus.
So folks, if you're sitting here watching this podcast, once it's been produced, and you know of a place in some city, in some state here in the country that you want to do this in, here in Missouri, over in Kansas, one of our other surrounding states, wherever it might be, get in touch with John here at God's Bucket Brigade, and as we said, just do it.
Yeah,
just do it. Yeah.
Do it.
So yeah, like I was just thinking, if you're an outreach coordinator of a church, this is a great way to just begin doing something easily.
It is
fairly easily, at least with a plan.
It really is. I mean, and this is God's provision. In some of the churches we partner with, there's a church liaison.
That's what I figured.
They're the contact for me and the organization to go with them, but they coordinate things internally with the church.
Right. They're the ones that get the volunteers to sign up and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yes.
Because you can't get volunteers to sign up for your direct organization,
yes,
but you can't for their church. You don't know their people.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's so true. Wow, it's a ready-made outreach, guys.
Yeah, and my friend and one of our former guests, guests on my podcast and guests on this podcast, Bill
Barker.
Bill Barker. I'm sorry. I have one of those moments. Bill Barker, he has a ministry called From Our Hands to Their Hands. He sends Bibles to the Philippines. And he's in his 60s and didn't just start this until just a few years ago. Yeah. And now there's been thousands and thousands and thousands of Bibles, John and Romans, gospel tracts. And he does what you do. He goes to churches, and they do like a weekend campaign where they make like 5,000 to 10,000. They actually manufacture using
Bibles.
Machinery and everything, Bibles, and then they get shipped to the Philippines a few times a year.
Awesome.
And then he goes over just after they arrive and helps distribute them.
Yeah, if you two were sitting on the same side, you'd be looking at each other like, I had to do that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I had to do that.
Now, Joe, I saw her getting out of the car there, and I was kind of wondering if she was going to come in and be on the podcast with you.
Yeah.
But you said she wanted to be, you and GBB, which I respect that. Tell us about her. When did you meet her, and when did you guys get married? What's her part in this ministry? Share about her ministry. Let's give more of a shout out to Joe here.
You can have her on the show, and she can share.
There you go. Yeah, we could have her a minute. Sure, we could do that.
But anyway, we literally met at a prayer march back in 2020. I don't know if you remember when the National Prayer March was happening in D.C. Well, there was a pastor friend of hers was co-leading a prayer march in Branson.
Okay,
and a friend of mine was the other co-leader. So she drove out down on her own, and I drove down on my own, and it was along the strip of Branson. 7-mile prayer march. And there was
my wife and I love going to Branson. So
yeah, great place.
It's a beautiful place. Yeah.
So we just started talking ministry, on the trip. And at the time she was married, so it was just a ministry conversation, which was wonderful. And years went by, and 2022, we started talking, and she had actually called me. She had a homeless person that she had met over by the Legends in KCK, and she's like, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, where are you at? What's going on?" And so, long story short, what she wanted to do is just drop this guy off on me, and me take care of it. Anyway, I just walked her through what to do, and that just started a conversation. Then I learned about her ministry, Garments of Praise, the ministry she runs.
Wow!
So they started providing clothes to God's Bucket Brigade.
I've heard of that before. Yeah, Garments of Praise. So,
Garments of Praise.
So
I had started with a ministry here a while back that I don't believe is still going, but we were supposed to be creating a shower trailer that would actually be taken out to homeless areas. It would provide showers, haircuts, Bibles, presentation of the gospel, things like that.
They have just so many different needs that are actually that can be met. So Garments of Praise, which is your wife's
the ministry that she runs. But long story short, we ended up marrying in March of 2024.
Oh, wow!
Just
you better remember. You better remember.
Yeah, 2024. Unfortunately, her husband had passed from Huntington's disease, and So after that, we had started dating after that, and then ended up getting married.
That's so cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So God's Bucket Brigade. So you guys have a website, right?
Yeah. It's godsbucketbrigade.org.
That's
simple as that.
so
Very
hard.
simple.
That's very
Yeah,
easy
there
to
you go.
remember. All right. And then obviously there's contact information on there. If you want to donate, right? They just go to godsbucketbrigade.org. I'm sure that's how they can set up a, best way to probably get involved would probably be to call you and meet with you, right? One-on-one. If you're in the Kansas City area.
Right,
yeah.
if you're in the Kansas City area.
Yeah.
And if you're in another city,
You just do a Zoom call or something like that.
Tucson, Phoenix.
Yeah.
I mean, we can, we have people there who can meet with you down there.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
And I have a cousin that was involved in that other ministry with me, and I know she has a tremendous heart for this. So I'm gonna connect her with you, and
that's great. Yeah.
Awesome.
she'll probably jump right on getting involved with that. So
that's great.
So then if they want to donate, obviously they can donate online. If you want to give, it's giving monthly.
Yeah, monthly recurring.
And now you're aware,
gift,
John, that there are restaurants.
It's nice.
You're aware there are restaurants and places that you can go do fundraising nights at. Have you guys done any of those?
I've heard of Culver's is the one that's been recommended to me.
Yeah.
They do a percentage of sales.
I know the manager of Pizza Ranch on North Oak.
They
I
do
can connect.
that?
Oh yes, they did. They did
I
some
wonder
of
if
this other
Chick-fil-A
ministry we
does
were
it as
involved
well,
in,
but I
can connect you with them. And
okay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, any organizations, companies would want to get involved that way. There's a gentleman.
Yeah.
Actually, we had our buckets delivered. I have to tell this story. A FedEx driver.
Yeah, tell some stories real quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
FedEx driver dropped off their last load of buckets about a week ago, and he's like, "What's God's Bucket Brigade?" So we shared, and he goes, I ride bikes, motorcycles. Could we do a poker run for you as a fundraiser? I'm like, well, I guess you could.
That's so cool.
I know some guys, some bikers for Christ, that would probably love to do that.
So they have like this poker runs, and then they go around and like getting cards and stuff like that. I've heard that before.
I've heard of it too, but I was just like, yeah, you could.
So a lot of times people, like when they join these type of ministries, they join these ministries because they want to help people, but it actually ends up, the reverse actually happens where they actually end up getting helped more than that. Anyway, do you have any stories of?
Yeah, there's a couple actually from one of the church I used to go to. They got involved with God's Bucket Brigade about 2 years ago.
Oh wow!
And they started going out serving. That was kind of how they started with us. And they met a gentleman about a year and a half ago, a young gentleman, homeless gentleman, probably in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
Long story short, again, one thing I always want people to know, it's a process. It's not they come off the street one day and they're housed and you have their life back. It's a process.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It really is, John. Yeah. So anyway, we were at Washington Park one night, and I saw Bobby over there talking to Ali, the homeless gentleman. They were having their conversation. Next thing, we're packing up, getting ready to leave, and we're in the car. My wife gets a phone call from Bobby's wife, Kayana. And she goes, oh, my gosh. She starts crying. She goes, Bobby just showed up here at home with Ali. So long story short with that, Ali took a shower. They took him out to dinner that night, put him up in a hotel. Joe and I, with Kayana, picked him up at the hotel the next morning, took him to Shelter KC, got him in the Shelter KC program.
Wow.
And now he's got a full-time job. Wow. He's working towards hopefully getting to Hillcrest Ministries for their housing program.
Wow. Wow, that's so crazy.
He's their son now. I mean, that's how they treat him. They pick him up for church every Sunday.
This is Bobby. Bobby picks him up.
Bobby picks him up every
Sunday. So that
totally has changed their life.
So like with homeless people, like you said, what your main objective is to meet them where they're at,
Yes.
So you're meeting them where they're at. So like some of these people are going to want to get off the street and they're willing to go through the effort to do that. But there's other ones, it's just like, they're not interested in getting off the street. That's just where they're at, Right. And so you can't, but your objective is not necessarily to help them off the street unless they want that.
That's
right?
Exactly right.
Because it's like there's no reason to try to motivate them to do something that they don't want to do, right? Yeah. Because you have no authority to do that.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
But what happens in that situation, I'm glad you asked that, Nathan, because just like Jesus would do, we love them where they're at.
Yeah.
We give them the dignity. We share with them. We love on them.
Yeah.
We care about them.
Yeah, it changes the way they feel about themselves.
Yes. Yeah. And so we're planting seeds along the way.
Yeah.
That, like Ali, it was a year and a half program.
Oh, that's crazy.
Before he was actually willing to make that decision to change.
Yeah, because it's just sometimes it's easier just to stay where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
even if where you're at is homeless.
that's exactly right.
Well, and we know some people end up homeless, not by circumstances of their choice.
Yes.
We do know that.
Yes.
But there are times where it is things they've done of their choice.
Self-inflicted.
And now they just have to decide to change that circumstance.
That's right.
And we know God can help change that.
Yes.
We know He can change hearts and lives because He comes into our life and saves us from our sins, gives us eternal life, gives us a new heart, new mind, new way of thinking, gets us into His Word, gets us into church, gets us into a good community. But again, even coming to faith in Christ, not just getting out of the street, but even coming to faith in Christ is a choice. Not everybody wants it.
It is.
And there are some people out there that I've been dealing with some people here lately that I believe in God and I pray for people and can you pray for this person in my family or whatever, but then I say, well, you go to church anywhere? Well, no, I don't. Well, why not? Well, I'm just too stubborn for that. I don't want to. Okay, well, you know what? And it's their life. They can do whatever they want to with it. But it's really, to me, you're okay with asking God for miracles. To save people, I got this person with cancer and I got this issue and, pray for me about this. Well, that's great. But don't you think that, if you're going to ask God for something and His Word says, forsaking not the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, or, give your heart and life to me and repent of your sins.
Yes.
Don't you think that's, you're...
Yeah, next time somebody tells you that they're too stubborn for that, just tell them that God is very stubborn too.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
He's a very stubborn God.
Yeah, yeah. And some people call him the hound of hell because he's going to continue to pursue you, and that
God
may be
you.
through people like us in their lives that are going to keep telling them, you need to give your life to Christ. You need to change your circumstance. You need to do this. And we're not trying to boss them around or tell them what. I'm just the messenger.
Yeah.
This is what
so
God's
good.
Word says.
Thanks, John, for being on the Faith Horizons podcast. It's really great to have you get to know about God's Bucket Brigade, and we're looking forward to seeing what God has for the future for this organization.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.